traveler. Welcome to the promenade. Humble quark at your service. Behold, Star Trek Deep Space Nine action figures. Commander Benjamin Sisko, he helps me run the station. And Security Chief Odo, very strict and sneaky for someone so honest. Here's Lieutenant Dax, and Chief O'Brien, and Major Kira Nerys. I happen to know she's crazy about me. Wonderful, aren't they? Especially this one. So handsome. Pains me to part with it, but if you pay me now... security. What a pleasant surprise.
Hailing you, hailing us, it's the USS Warp Drive. We're back from the brink, back from the Nexus. We're raw, we're live, we're still functioning, or near enough, to beam into you, to beam into the USS Athena and crash out. I think that's always for the best, really, when you're aboard this ship. Crash out in our drinking den. This is 10 backward. None of us have been barred just yet. That's the good news. But we're serving up Trek Talk, banter and other bollocks right up your alpha quadrant, and all you have to do really is sit there, stay right where you are, and we'll bring it all right over to your table as ever. Plenty to choose from. I started drinking about 10 minutes into the episode itself. I have had
10 minutes.
I have had a time of relapse in between where I could sort of recharge my batteries, but I'm ready to come back here with you guys to chat about it some more. Of course, it's the 60th anniversary year of Star Trek. That's why we've restarted and rebooted Warp Drive in the nick of time, in honor of 60 years of Star Trek, in honor of Gene Roddenberry himself and all those ships, all those missions that have lit up our little lives and childhoods for generations now. I'm happy to say I'm joined by a crew, in fact, of Trek experts. First of all, there's David Milling here. Manning, are you on the engineering station tonight? Oh, he's in full Kirk mode. He's going Kirk. Hi, yeah. David.
I'm desperately trying to secure the hull breaches. That's exactly
what I told her, but I still got the the caution anyway. Still got the ASPO. Yes, good to have you back, mate. And we've got the mighty Bowlestrek representing Billie Eilish. Is Billie Eilish Canadian, Chris?
Thank God, no.
Grateful for small mercies.
No, we have Justin and Celine Dion, so I don't think we can ever do worse than that. So I don't think it makes a difference. Hello, everyone. I'm very depressed. I spent it.
The thing is, Chris, if you think about it, the two most irritating Canadians, Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau, right? If they're there together in a relationship, presumably if there was any sort of strike against them in the same location, that wipes out two of the most irritating people in Canada. Have they got a designated survivor who will irritate you if both of them were taken out?
So many people.
Come visit my country. I'm sure the crackheads pooping in the alleyway behind my house, they'd be on that list.
There's plenty.
For clarification, everyone, in case you're wondering, so the image of Billy also represents my own personal mood today.
Okay.
Because what we're about to discuss, as you all know, I have my thing that I do. And my brain is a little bit buggered because, as usual, I've just spent like the last 5 hours with this thing that we are going to watch. I just finished my script for tomorrow's video right before we go live, which, of course, I have to leave at the 2-hour mark just in case we run along because I have to go and scream into a microphone for 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how long it takes. I have been in hell. This is horrible. We'll find out more about it later, but
I can safely say, Chris, we won't be going long, so we won't be giving your ordeal any extra leverage there. It would be a shame, I think, to leave you in purgatory for any longer than we need to, because I know that you zapruder every single episode of new Star Trek, whether you want to or not. So we do appreciate you being on deck for this one.
Well, I might not, Dan. As I said, to prevent burnout, because the look of my friend Billy is literally what I look like right now after this morning. At some point, one of these future weeks, the GOAT has promised that he's going to relieve me for an episode, so I don't have to deal with it. So
Chris,
Chris,
as long as you haven't got to the point yet where you're vomiting glitter, I think you're okay.
and to those of you who are wondering, no, Gary is not joking. That's something that actually happens in the episode.
I actually did, Chris. Dan will attest to this, that after Thursday's Type 40, I told Dan that he probably, because I'd seen the episode at that point.
You did.
I told Dan that he probably should check on you because I knew that you would be in dire straits.
Well, I was about to reintroduce Gary Akers, but I don't think I really need to. But your reputation goes before you anyway, doesn't it, Gary? But it's good to have you back, mate. Thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, I'm just I love all the quality programming that you make us watch, so we can come on here.
My suggestion last week was we have to nominate as something good to watch. One of us nominates an episode of something good to watch.
Well, I have to say that, Rabbi, you are officially forgiven because I have now seen something worse than Megalopolis.
Oh, God. That is the worst thing ever. No, this is. You're right.
I do feel like the Candyman who gives you bountiful enjoyment every time we get together for one of these. The sights and the sounds, Rabbi. Your head's in your hands, mate. That's early even for you.
Well, listen,
but I promise that this will be fun. I promise.
If I may, I mean, like, let me give you the review I gave in synagogue last night. Well, outside synagogue, right? Because
we haven't got to the episode yet, so we're
no. This is
the episode in a few minutes.
Review. This will not give any spoilers. Okay. People like, because you always have the group of old men who sit outside and chat about TVs and movements, stuff like that, right?
Oh, I see. There's a group.
That's what and young people do. I gravitate to that. I go to the synagogue for services, and I nip out and I chat with the cool kids.
Yeah.
So somebody always brings up Starfleet Academy. They're normies, right? And they say they all love Landman. By the way, I never heard of it. I've got to find it. They all love Landman. Apparently, got something super hot in it. Okay, well, I do not know. So they asked me, how is Starfleet Academy? It is the wokest shit ever. It's like woke had a baby. It is the wokest shit ever. If you have it's also awful. If you have a choice of watching Starfleet Academy, particularly this one, or having a small Filipino boy put his fist up your ass, it's Filipino boy time, right? It's literally that bad, right?
Today's the day.
And then I went and nipped back in for the evening service.
For the Filipino boy?
Listen, we do stop using them when they went up over $2.99 a pound.
We have to be grateful for the smaller mercies. Thank you for that, Rabbi. Good to have you back. Should be grateful for the small mercies. We didn't get any of this I saw on screen this week. The USS Athena, which I think usually a lot of these ships they grow on me after a time, but it's the opposite with this. And of course now we've seen the saucer separation. It's even worse. So I didn't like it when the Enterprise D did this. It's no better now. It's still really, really ugly. And obviously, what's on my mind now over the last 2 or 3 days has been the 1990s. And I'm specifically brought to mind how in 1993, the big reaction from Star Trek fans was that how can we go from the Enterprise D and the Enterprise A, which had been in the movies until relatively recently before, how could we go from all that majesty and beauty and the flagships of the Federation, but how can we go from that to an ugly spaceship like the former Cardassian space station Deep Space Nine when the third live-action Star Trek show launched in 1993. This is my personal favourite Star Trek show for various reasons. And I always loved the station. I always loved all the trappings of it, around from 1993 right the way through till 1999. So for me, largely the 90s means this show and that cast of characters, particularly the people who were there sort of right the way through. I love them all. I cherish this show. Not that I don't cherish the others, but there was something just about this. It felt like the underdog that people were dead against from the start. And yet it endured, it wasn't cancelled. It played out in the way that they intended it to. and they filled the cast with some terrific character actors, some of whom were more experienced than others, but lots of which have gone on to appear in lots of other things. So when I look back to the resistance to DS9 in '93, and I compare it to the resistance that we all felt to Starfleet Academy, I think, will this be revised in 15, 20, 25 years' time?
No, this is shit beyond shit beyond shit beyond shit. It will never, ever, ever not be awful.
Yep.
There's no possible way. And Dan, when I actually get genuinely sad. This episode made me I'm usually just miserable, as everybody knows. That's my thing. Just being depressed and yelling. But this brought me to a whole new level. The fact that they bastardized my favorite show. But with Deep Space Nine, I'm like you, Dan. Well, the late 90s, literally the period of 93 to the end of the 90s, was marked for me by Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, and the X-Files. But especially with Deep Space Nine, I can reference any time of my life from January 93 to early June 1999 by what episode of DS9 was playing at the time. It's like because this was my teenage years and my very, very early 20s. This was the show that I grew up with, and this is one of those. You know how everybody will have this. You know, you'll have a crappy day, everything sucks, and you there's always like those few shows that you can put in, and it will instantly take you out of that and take you back to a happier time. For me, it's DS9 and Star Trek, the original series, and the 60s and 70s episodes of that British show that we don't mention on the show because it's banned. But this just made me so sad. That's it. But before I stop yammering, I just want to give a special shout out to Cisco's uniform, who showed more character development and was frankly more likable than any character that we've seen on this show. I also want to take a moment for the Bajoran orb that was forced to appear in the episode.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
It's just like hanging out in this display on a random ship.
That wouldn't happen.
Fuck you.
Well, it would in this universe because all they did was an image search. But I am very happy that the orb did the right thing. It decided to self-destruct and die rather than continue appearing in the episode.
Yeah.
So props to the orb that ended itself, and props to the uniform. So there I've sent to. Oh yes, and Cisco's poor baseball, even it couldn't get away. So our thoughts are for the uniform, the dead orb, and that poor baseball, and the typewriter, which is from which was never actually in an episode of Star Trek.
Yeah.
Because if y'all remember, that all occurred in Cisco's brain.
Yeah,
so
it was a different reality.
Or that typewriter.
We're not meant. You see, we're not meant to think about any of this because it's external. It's external to actual Star Trek. They are observing it in the same way that we were. They're not within the same universe. I mean, the strangest thing that I've found, particularly this week, is there was 2 or 3 characters in this show whereby I kind of liked them. I saw potential in them. But with this episode, I find myself in the place where I hate, all of a sudden, I hate them all. I'm sick of the sight of all of them. And I just imagine that, what would the original cast think if they got scripts like this? I think the reaction would be something like this. I'd like to say, I think things are getting worse. We're tracking it all here at Warp Drive, a Star Trek podcast, because, well, somebody's got to, haven't they? We're going to find out what you've got to say and what they are saying out there in the Star Trek universe, the Alpha, the Beta, the Gamma, all the Delta Quadrant. We covered all that as well. We've had all our sensors working to find out what we can. But yeah, we can't hold off the episode any longer. We're going to find out what all the panel thought and what you thought too on this latest mission for the crew of the Starfleet Academy. I think we all need a good talking to.
Long ago, information was measured only in kilobytes. Then came megabytes and gigabytes, then terabytes, petabytes, and exabytes. Today, with all this information flying back and forth on the web, we will soon arrive at yottabytes. How big is that? 10 to the 24th power, 1,000 billion trillion bytes. How many libraries of Congress per second can your software handle? It's a different kind of world. You need a different kind of software.
Okay, so everything
What a
seems to be
brilliant
working.
actor.
Thanks for that, Commander, Captain. He's a very serious character, isn't he? But he's not had to sit through this, has he? So we're talking about the very latest episode of Starfleet Academy. This debuted on Paramount Plus globally on the 5th of February, 2026. So back to the classrooms. It's half over. So we can thank the prophets for that. Starfleet Academy Season 1. That's the bad news. There's another season coming next year. Just blame Paramount Plus.
It's
blame
half
Robert
over.
Picardo.
There's no will to live.
We'll be taking everybody's comments in a short while, but we're going to exchange our experiences on this latest episode. So it's called Series Acclamation Mill. I know. Written by Kirsten Beyer and Tawny Newsome. Now, Tawny Newsome is the woman who played the lead character, or voiced the lead character, of course, in Star Trek Lower Decks, that animated comedy show from a couple of years ago. She's also a producer on this series, so she's got a feet under the table, whether she needs to or not. The other writer is Kirsten Beyer, who's been involved with Star Trek since the early days of Star Trek Discovery, and came out of Star Trek Publishing, and initially, even before then, from Star Trek fan fiction too. So these are two women who've been involved to various degrees for quite a long period of time. The director is Larry Teng, who is considered to be a distinguished and respected television director. Got a long list of credits on some great shows. This is his first time directing Star Trek. And you do wonder, as he sort of entered into a sort of semi-retirement, when you look and you see everything that he's been involved in, stuff like, things like The Wire and all those kind of good shows that people like. The plot of this, it's quite a simple one, you'd think. So it says, as a cadet sets out to solve an ancient Starfleet mystery, she embarks on a journey of self-discovery and learns the value of forging her own path. Meanwhile, Nala, now I always forget who Nala, I forget who they all are.
Mumbles.
Nala. And to me, Nala, Chris, is the little lioness cub in The Lion King. I think her name's Nala. But apparently the Chancellor's name is Nala in this. So meanwhile, Nala agrees to help a fellow Chancellor over at the War College with an elaborate alien ritual. So this one focuses on the character of Sam, played by Keris Brooks, who, to say that it's a Marmite character, I think is putting it mildly. The first and only holographic. Well, she's the first and only holographic cadet, apparently, in the history of Starfleet. And you'd think, okay, there's a lot to play with there, particularly, potentially. It's Star Trek history, sort of Odo, Spock, Data, the Doctor, characters like that who are kind of, they're within the central cast, but are also sort of outsiders. They're sort of a window into their world. So it's in that mold, this character. And I initially found the performance in the early episodes quite winning. I quite liked her. I have revised my opinion based on this. I found this episode to be almost unreservedly awful all the way through, I'm afraid.
Well, I don't think anybody could possibly disagree with you. In regard to the smothering of member bearers under a non-existent plot, but the use of member bearers, it was like watching somebody having necrophilia rape with your mother, right? It was like, get off, just get off, Deep Space. What the fuck is wrong with you? Holy shit!
This is, I mean, I don't even know what Series Acclamation Mill stands for anyway. I actually think a better acronym for this character would be simply a moron. Would be much more appropriate.
That's
I've got to tell.
I don't know what you mean.
You can use that, Chris. I got to tell you, this is when Dan. You stunned me before when you said you got 10 minutes into this. Before you started questioning what you were watching.
Yeah.
Dan, it took me about 3 seconds, because let me remind you, how did this episode start? We got
fucking dance sequence.
No. Before that, Chris.
Oh.
A Paramount series, a
Oh, the
Paramount
crayon.
Studios production. The show hadn't even freaking started, and then we got the crayon thing of a story about me. Dan, this is, I'm not exaggerating. This was not only the worst hour of Star Trek I've ever watched. I actually think this is the worst hour of television, period, that I've ever endured. This series is this episode, but this series too, is indefensible trash. Watching it it's like being tied to a chair, forced to watch everything you own and love put into a wood chipper right in front of you, and just having to sit there and watch it. Good Star Trek was a franchise for intelligent people. Watching this show actually makes you dumber. And like you said before, this was the one episode that, based on the writing, because if you go into Wikipedia, you'll see like the list of the writers. You won't see plots, you won't see titles, but you'll see a list of the writers for the season.
Oh, okay.
This was the one episode that honestly I held out hope for because of the writers. Kirsten Beyer, as you said, I mean, to her discredit, she was involved with Discovery, but to her credit, she was basically single-handedly wrote, I think, all of the post-series Voyager novels, of which there were like 10 or 12 interconnected. They all reunite. They go back to the Delta Quadrant with a fleet of explorer ships, and all the books are kind of interconnected and everything. And she was the single writer on all of them. So I thought, okay, she's got Trek cred. She knows what she's talking about. And Tawny Newsome, I actually rate most of, not all of, Lower Deck. So I thought, okay, and I know she said that she adores Deep Space Nine and all of that. So I thought, okay.
This goes back.
There's
she's never seen it.
But here's the thing, Rabbi. I think that just the gravitational black hole pull of suck that this show exudes, I think even if you come in with talent, it sucks everything out and you're left with it. And so for right now, I'm just going to say, I think Jeff Goldblum said it best in Jurassic Park, and I quote, "That is one big pile of shit." So I think that's really all you can say about this episode.
Last week I complained because they'd started it, if you recall, Gary, they'd started the episode with a CBS production translated into Klingon, and I said I wish they'd stop doing cute things like that. This week was even, it's in child scrawl writing as well, the kind of writing you'd get from a 4-year-old. And I know that Sam is meant to be 4 months old, but she's also aged up to a teenager. So she wouldn't write like
Dan,
this
she's
either,
like a walking computer. She's from a planet of hologram graphs who sent her, to the Academy to report back. Why does she write like a remedial 4-year-old? That makes no. It's fine if you want to say, okay, it's being cute. They open it with Klingon language last week because it's a Klingon episode. That's fine. That's fair. But to open it with this kind of gibberish makes no.
It's a symptom, Gary. It's a symptom, Gary, of a broader problem with this. And of course, it would be easy to literally rip this apart scene by scene. But I think the big problem with this episode, and perhaps with Academy generally, is that they are simply trying too hard here, trying to be cute, trying to be clever, trying to appeal to everybody and appealing to no one. I think that's the massive problem with this show generally. And it's at no time in the last month that we've been reviewing it has it been more obvious than this. Because at the dead center of it, and they're quite right when they say that Sam is that kind of archetypal Star Trek character. So why is she getting lost? I think that Odo, Spock, Data, those characters. I agree that in that mold, a character in that mold is important to a Star Trek show. So potentially, you could have a character like that explore outward from a story like this, but it starts badly and gets worse and worse and worse. So any potential that could have been there is totally lost.
The girl that swallowed her comm badge would write better than the childish gibberish.
That's the problem. Even when they have the germ of an idea which could belong in this universe, it immediately gets spoilt. It's not necessarily that too many cooks spoil the broth, but against the weight of, oh, what can we do? What can we challenge? What can we achieve? What can we celebrate? What can we wag our finger at? This is meant to be a tribute in part to Deep Space Nine, but I wish they hadn't have bothered. It's like a lot of things about this episode. They just shouldn't have bothered. If they tell stories about people rather than trying to be cute and trying to be clever, then maybe we would like these characters that bit. Like I said, I quite liked this character a couple of weeks ago. I can't stand the sight of her now. And it's the same, with practically everybody that I initially had hope for. I kind of wish they'd just piss off.
I mean, Dan, would you want to be, and I'll stop yelling, would you want to be serving on a starship, which theoretically is what all of these morons are being prepared to do? Would you want to serve on a starship with any of these people where your life is dependent on them being competent and good at their jobs?
I would if my decision was
in all fairness, they're not a bridge crew. They're cadets, so we're supposed to see them come together and refine their skills and become that kind of. But I think to be willing people to success like that, Chris, I think you've got to like them. You've got to relate to them. You've got to, I don't know, even look on them with a kind of parental kind of eye. But with these people, the more time I spend with them, the less I like them. And that includes the people that we already knew. I mean, there's not really much worth saying about the B plot of this that takes place between the two chancellors and that sort of ritual with the fish and the doctor. It was absolute gibberish, a complete waste of screen time. It's bad enough that this episode lasted an hour as it was. They could have just cut that 10, 12 minutes completely, saved us all a lot of time. So that was complete shit. What was that even there for? Was it to distract us about how the rest of it was?
I have an idea. I think I can explain this episode, right? I really do. The character Sam is insane, right? Just completely insane. And this was all from her delusional worldview. Like, this whole fish thing didn't happen, right? It was just in her head. Because look at it. What the is going on with this shit, right? With that, does it not make more sense?
I mean, why was the Chancellor Nala doing a weird impression of, like she was doing a kind of Cockney accent or something? Why was any of it happening? Yeah. Why am I watching it? Who are these people? How do they get paid to do this?
You can tell that it was filler because they don't bother to resolve it. You don't find out how the meeting went. You don't find out how the meeting with the alien ambassador went. It doesn't resolve because it was designed to be nothing but filler.
I have a theory, as if this show isn't awful enough. Mumbles is and General Shooty Pants have the hots for each other.
I think so.
And we're going to be treated to a Shooty Pants Mumbles sex sequence by the end of the season.
Yeah,
because that's what we all want to see. But to answer your question, Dan, earlier, who would want to get on that ship? If you want, well, say if you're somebody who's very depressed and you don't care whether or not you live or die anymore, or you're just a patient in the Canadian healthcare system, then you'd want to join this. Except I think that they've forgotten that the ship is actually a thing. I think the ship on this show is like the saucer separating on TNG, where it happens in the first episode, then like once again in the first season, then once again at the beginning of the fourth season, then you never see it again. So the ship on this show is the equivalent of the saucer section, where you're never going to see it because everything's going to happen on Earth. And this was a special episode. We're treated right at the beginning. We're treated to a dance sequence. We're treated to a Klingon wearing a dress. We're treated to vomiting glitter. We're treated to a Zoomer club party. That's where I wanted to get on board the Athena. And of course, there's the morality of the degenerate gets the hefty gram intoxicated, which you would think, given that especially this is Zoomers, that would be, to use their word, problematical. But that's never actually dealt with. Because
she does give her consent, though. I suppose she does give consent, Chris.
does she?
Here's the thing, Dan. I watching this episode, I kept first of all, there's about 4 times during this episode as I was first watching it, where I paused and mentally tried to picture the writer's room as they made decisions on various things. Like when somebody says, oh, I know it would be a great scene. Let's have him vomit rainbow glitter or pride glitter or whatever it was supposed to be. It's like, did anybody like stop and say, okay, now wait, is that supposed to be funny? Is that supposed to be, what is it? It's like, but anyway, I loved all of the really helpful, because the writers assume that everybody watching this is morons. So they give us all the helpful on-screen things like photonic equals holographic body, because hey, our audience is too stupid to know what a photon is, and we'll explain it. And we'll explain what an emissary is. An emissary equals good job equals ambassador. It's like, could you imagine before now any Star Trek episode, assuming that your viewers are such morons that with all the little balloons, like, oh, nice job, good this, I love. It's like, oh my God.
You're quite right. This is meant to be Starfleet Academy rather than some sort of remedial class for the intellectually subnormal. Maybe the better title for this would have been E is for Emissary, and they could have gone really Sesame Street on it, because everything about this really annoyed me. Dan, I don't like gimmickry anyway, Chris. But when people are singing and there are musical notes flying literally in the air graphically, so all of that was annoying me. And then of course you wait 10 minutes for the title sequence. That comes on. That annoys me because it's far too long. I was already
2 pages into my script.
But it's all awful, and it's getting worse. Dan, there's a big offense to this one. We'll go into it later, spoilers. But we're introduced to a new character. Now, my name for this character is Slappy. Which one's that?
Well, Slappy is the character who is introduced just to be a slap in the face to Star Trek Deep Space Nine fans. Slappy is at the center of all of this.
Oh, Dax.
Yes, Slappy is Dax. Yes, folks, if you didn't see this, Dax is back. Obviously a character of diversity, so only like half Trill.
Was she Trill at all? I didn't see. I was looking for her to be Trill.
No, she was a Cardassian.
She was like half Trill, half Cardassian, but we will only refer to her as Slappy.
You know who I thought you were going to be talking about as the new character? Was the character that I call Jinx Guinan, who is the drag queen bartender. I'm expecting them to make that a regular character.
Serving alcohol to underage people. Yeah.
There you go.
That makes sense.
But Dan, I will say, I do have to say though that I was pleasantly surprised that I did not get a litany of the 20th century slang / cursing this week. However,
yes.
They did balance it out where we got not 1, but 2 erection references. So I guess that balances out. We got not only where Simply a Moron is showing this guy, Mary Sue, whatever his name is, sitting there watching his, the princess, and we get a commentary on the blood flow to his private parts and a helpful arrow, Dan, in case we really
yes, of course, yes.
And later on we have the Academy computer giving us an extended Morning Wood comment, followed by the computer laughing at its own joke. So
well, Gary, you also forgot the image of the degenerate and his popsicle right before the arrow.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, the character of Dax, this is the 4th incarnation that we've seen, is that we saw Curzon, who was the one who was initially friends with Ben Sisko. We saw Curzon in flashbacks as part of Deep Space Nine. Terry Farrell played Jadzia Dax for the bulk of the show, then Nicole de Beer played Ezri Dax, a successor, and now we have this new character whose name was so forgettable I couldn't even bother making a note of it. Was it Ilya Dax, something like that?
Yeah, but Dan, we just refer to this character as Slappy.
Slappy Dax.
Remember the episode of Deep Space Nine where all of Dax's past hosts come back and they inhabit the bodies of the cast?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was awesome. That was fantastic. I'm sorry, my mind floated off from.
This is a storied character, and I can see. I think if it had been again better written, better acted, if the show was generally better, maybe I'd have seen this coming. I didn't see this coming at all. I have to, mainly because I think the character's being alien rather than a trill. So I didn't see this coming.
I did.
But when it arrived, I think I was meant to be emotionally affected by it, and I wasn't even remotely.
Maybe you want to vomit.
I could see exactly what they were doing as soon as it came on screen, because remember, we also learned shortly before I stopped watching that disgrace of an STD show that trills don't have to be in actual trill bodies. Remember the non-binary they, them? So we knew that it didn't have to be a trill. But because they weren't subtle about it at all, I could tell right away. Hands behind the back, talking exactly like Jadzia and referring to Cisco as Benjamin. I'm like, no, you're not going there. You're going to go there, aren't you?
Yeah. The hands behind the back. That is sort of the body language is exactly the same. But ironically, I mean, they were trying to kind of to reconnect me to Deep Space Nine. But the series that this reminded me the most of, funnily enough, wasn't even a Star Trek show at all. David, it was Mork and Mindy. Every time Sam went to talk to her superiors, it reminded me of the old Nanu Mork calling Orc thing from back in the...
Yeah. Wow. What can I add to this apart from the fact that the first attempt at watching made me shut down for an hour and I lost consciousness. That's how bad it was. Second attempt at watching, my daughter came round yesterday afternoon to spend some time with me, and I had to watch this episode. I said, look, do you mind? She's a month off being 20, so she is the sort of demographic. She's also in a same-sex relationship, so she is exactly the demographic that this show is after. She has watched her fair share of young adult stuff before. One of her favorite films is Mean Girls, so she is prime for this sort of thing. After the show finished, she just looked at me and said, "What the hell was that?" She's aware of Star Trek because both, obviously, my mum, her mum, my ex-wife, and myself are Star Trek fans. So she's seen plenty of Star Trek in her life. So she's aware of it. She doesn't choose to watch it. She doesn't go and look, seek it out. But she said, if I'm ever round, if you ever got that on when I come round again, I will just turn around and leave.
Smart girl. You raised the world.
And I said, look, love, I'm only watching this because this really nasty man from Birmingham said that I have to.
Yeah, he's forcing me.
The Klingon in the dress didn't swing it for her? Because
No.
You know what? If my wife walked in while I was watching this, right, I'll say, no, I just switched over from porn. I'll be too embarrassed.
I mean, from my perspective, it was, and I've said on the stream before, I've not watched a lot of Deep Space Nine, but what I do know is that there's no mystery around Cisco at all. Everybody knew about the Prophet, him being an emissary, him being linked to the Prophets. Everybody knew what happened to him.
Yeah.
There is no mystery whatsoever.
Don't get me wrong, David. Don't get me wrong. It's romantic, and there is mystique, and things are open to a kind of interpretation. But narrative-wise, you're quite right. Things are capped off really quite neatly.
Yeah, and so he did it his own way. Yeah, we know he did. We don't need all this nonsense. Yeah. from my perspective, this was a huge own goal because they had so many chances to make this an interesting story, and at each attempt they put the ball in their own net. They had an opportunity with the B plot. They had an opportunity to show this new race. They had an opportunity to actually not fuck about with, sorry, I've said the F word, mess about with the chancellors. The only redeeming part of this from a dialogue point of view is when the War College Chancellor actually has a go at Captain Mumbles, quite rightly so. That was the only redeeming part. They messed it up with Heftygram. The amount of, my God, even to Sabrina the Teenage Witch wouldn't have had all that stupid scrolling across the screen with the graphics and stuff.
It gets in the way of the drama, David, and the character. If you're going to do a character study, and Star Trek has done that several times with those outsider characters, but it only works when we get under their skin a little. And because all that was going on, I couldn't, like I say, I didn't dislike the character before. I hate the sight of her now because they've pushed so much distance between us.
Absolutely, and they must have somebody in from makeup completely doing bogey checks on the actress who plays Sam, because the amount of times we saw up her nostrils was absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
We've got no mention narratively about the degenerate's mother at all. We're halfway through the series. She hasn't been mentioned, I don't think, since the end of episode 2.
Oh, are you talking about Caleb?
Yeah,
the guy, the kid who grew up on like garbage scows and in sewers, but who can debate anybody off the floor, and who in this episode can magically, instantly reprogram a being who is from a planet of holographic aliens, and it only takes them 2 seconds to reprogram her entire system.
Yeah, we've got a religion, or we've got a group of people whose religion is completely and utterly trashed and offended, and the person who's done it really doesn't get any sort of any sort of, no, I don't say punishment, but they don't get any sort of corrective behavior. Reprimand. Thank you, Gary, from it. She completely insulted the Bajorans' religion.
She goes into I guess it's like an education center or whatever, and says, "Oh, I'm here just for the facts. I'm not here for all that other, nonsense." And I wish the guy would have said, "Okay, there's the door. You can turn around." And David's right. I was so desperately hoping that Holly Hunter would say, "Oh, and I have a report here that basically you called the foundation of their entire culture nonsense." I hate this character. I hate this character.
For me, I felt there's a lot of neuroscience and that states that when you go into severe psychiatric shock, whether it be as a result of a trauma-related incident or something affects you so deeply, your IQ drops to that which is below of the most affected and disabled, specially educated needs child. I think my IQ was really, really dropping below that level, and I've experienced that shock and that sort of effect. So I know what that's like. But for something to actually make my body shut down and to lose consciousness, it has to be bad. And this, to me, I was just thinking, and that's very good. Oh my. you know, as George Takei said. I was thinking, what is this? My brain is turning to mush, and nothing I am seeing on the screen is. It was like, blimey, it was like a trippy nightmare. It was like nothing made sense. They were pissing all over something precious. They were pissing all over canon. At one point, I actually thought to myself, maybe they Googled the wrong Cisco. Maybe they Googled Cisco who sung Thong Song. And maybe that's the Cisco we are actually talking about here. There is no goddamn image of the man in his own damn museum. I know Mumbles tried to explain that away, but that's probably because they didn't seek permission, or they couldn't afford it, or he declined it from Avery Brooks to get permission to use his image.
It looked that way to me. It was very conspicuous.
They're in San Francisco, right?
Supposed to be.
Okay. Where's the museum?
New Orleans.
You can't hit the transporter
exactly
and go there. Why does she have to go to a virtual museum for something that it's like, oh,
because Gary, that would make sense.
Send me to New Orleans.
And don't even get me to the point about trying to learn about an emissary, a man, the mystery of the man that was really important to her studies. Otherwise, she was going to get yanked out of the academy and never have any more interactions with organics, so to speak. So what do? They go to a fucking bar. Okay, What is this? And I'm not even going to mention I'm not even going to mention the children's book to learn about a hero. I'm not even going to mention the fact that she punched a fucking Romulan in the face, who's meant to be one of the toughest aliens in Star Trek. You know, 3 times the strength of humans. Okay, and she starts a bar fight, and then, my goodness,
I think we were meant to get sort of Top Gun vibes from this sort of bar room set of series of events, Rabbi. But to me, obviously, you've got the obligatory sex clown in there. There's always got to be a sex clown. But everybody's sort of trying to give it the big one and sort of show off their sort of levels of testosterone. When you've got a bunch of actors like this who they haven't got an ounce of genuine masculinity in them, especially the blokes. So that entire sequence of the bar.
Well, okay, Dan, I can. People are asking what was going on in the writers' room, right? And I can really explain it. If you've seen the later seasons of Barry, a very good show as opposed to this on.
I've only seen the first couple, but I did like it.
Okay, so in the later seasons, you get into how networks make TV shows and what the writers' rooms are like, and you go, and you see it, and you go, that makes complete sense, right? It's either in the last season or one season. I think it's season before last. But I mean, these are just again.
The one thing I think
my daughter finished it off. Sorry, Gary. Can I
go ahead? No, finish off. Go ahead and finish, David.
My daughter said at the end of it, after the "I'm not coming round if it's on again" sort of thing, she said, "I said, there you go, Rosie. That you and your friends are the target audience for this." And she said, "I'm not being funny, Dad, but no one, including me, especially me, no one I know would want to watch this utter horseshit." Not one of us. So I don't know who they think they're writing it for, but it's certainly not us.
Or them. Or it's right. They're writing for themselves. They're writing because they got the job and they just said, "Oh, we got to be cute," right? There's no thought of serving the audience in this whatsoever.
That to me is why this particular episode is so disappointing. Because, like I said, I thought that the two writers between them could come up with some kind of decent Trek-like, hour, and even apparently that was beyond them. To your point, Dan, earlier about the sexuality of all these characters. I've
Yeah.
concluded now that the burn killed off every straight male. That's the only
so.
explanation for this.
They seem to be delighting. If you remember last week, I was sort of undecided about whether they were trying to say, or was it the week before? I think it could have been the week before. They're all starting to get mixed up in my head now. But the idea that the Klingon was in that kind of homoerotic situation with his roommate, the Cockney guy. They were up close when he was trying to deliver that speech. He was trying to teach him how to breathe while he was speaking, all that kind of thing. I thought it was ridiculous. But obviously now it's pretty much out front and center that Krog, Brittany, the shame of Kronos, that's right, isn't it, Chris? That Krog is gay, is a
yes.
He just not
homosexual.
slightly. Like they weren't even subtle. Like the dress says it all.
Now I have to. This is apparently true. I have no reason to doubt this. The next episode, and there were, I think there were, I understand there were 6 episodes released for pre-screening.
Yes, there were.
All right, so next week is the last one of that. Apparently, the episode next week is like a big, like has a really explicit sex scene in it. So much so that the episode is going to be rated MA, mature audiences. So there's Star Trek 2026, everybody. So heaven only knows who that sex scene is going to be between.
Well, we have 3 budding relationships being built up here. So we've got Mumbles and General Shooty Pants. We've got Brittany's love interest, which is up there on screen. But let's also remember we got treated to Cootie Pants Dylan and the Degenerate pawing each other for 5 minutes in this episode. That was fun.
It's going to be between Plumpy and...
those two. Oh, dear God. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe I just won't. Somebody let me know if that's it. I don't want to see any of this.
I get the impression that they're laughing up their sleeve while they put together characters like Krog, the gay Klingon. Wouldn't it be fun if we did this? I wonder what people will say if we do that. You know, what are the most sort of hyper masculine, stoic characters in all of Star Trek? It's the Klingons. They're uber alpha. So we'll have a gay Klingon. It's the kind of thing you'd see in a parody on Saturday Night Live or something like that. And I'm not saying it's not a viable story in theory, particularly 1,000 years in the future, but you just get the impression because of the way that this is written and because of the way that it's all presented, because I think that the presentation of all of this is completely wrong, as well as the writing. Every creative choice they make, it all feels... I don't think it even feels spiteful in the way that some programming does. I think that some of the Star Wars shows of recent years have felt really spiteful. And there's another show in particular that went through a spiteful phase. I'm not getting that with this, but I'm getting a really immature kind of, we're doing this just to wind people up and to see what happens. Not to start conversations, just to annoy people that evening, piss them off for the night. And I don't know, I have a problem. I have a problem with that. Even if that person is someone you could consider bigoted. Still, this is what people are paying for Paramount Plus, subscribing to this platform. And how are you going to reward them with their money? By deliberately provoking them, never mind serving the material, which is badly written and badly made.
One of my best friends who is gay and is actually quite an alpha male type chap, who you would not expect if you were, you know.
Yeah, I know several dudes that are just like that.
He's a Trekkie as well, and is grossly insulted with the way that they are trying to portray Krog, Brittany, Shame of Kronos, as gay, because he said they're using all the tropes of somebody into pressing flowers, watching birds, quite, you know, effeminate in a sort of way, rather than it would have been more interesting to see them be a big strapping warrior fighting, you know, eating warrior stew, spitting out entrails of people, and having them actually gay then, because they're not. It would be a different sort of take on it. And he said that is not very well represented in film and TV, it's always seems to be the sort of stereotypical type of homosexual individual who end up being homosexual, or in same-sex relationships. And he was quite upset in the fact, annoyed, angry in the fact that they seem to be going down this same, they're going to be a healer, they're going to be a carer, there's a softer side. And no, make him the most violent person in the room and then turn it on its head and say, well, actually, they are gay, because that portrays them from a position of strength rather than somebody who's having panic attacks because they're going to have to speak publicly and not eat warrior stew because they refuse to shoot at birds. And so it's just, he said it's clumsy and it's lazy.
It's one thing to present us with a cast of characters who are all cliches. Even if you're kind and use the word archetypes, I'd say that they are cliches. I'd say that Krog is a cliche. Caleb, even though I like that actor, I think he's got a load of charisma and probably a decent career in front of him. He is also a cliche. Sam is a cliche too. The Beta Z girl, all of them are cliches taken from every kind of sort of high school musical or teen flick, from anywhere between the 80s right up to the present day. You recognize these kind of figures, but you think, okay, that's fine to present them like that initially, but they should be developing by now. This is the part where the writers really start to show why they are there, why they're in that writer's room, why they're on the payroll, and it's all disintegrating. This halfway mark, particularly to choose a character piece to be the center of it. This should be when we start to unpeel people a little, and we don't. We find out that people are just as shallow as we believe them to be when we first met them. So it's desperately disappointing. The only thing that did impress me, and I don't know if I'm alone in this, was the presence of I suppose I should have seen this coming too. The presence of Sir Lofton as Jake Sisko.
I felt so bad for him. He didn't know what he was getting into. Literally, I don't think he knew it. I think he just like, okay, I'll reprise Jake. I feel so bad for him. And,
I'm glad he got paid. I'm glad he got a paycheck, and I think it was actually genuinely meaningful for him.
Well,
I think
he didn't know what he was in.
He had no idea what he was in. He was like the one outlier to this whole thing. And yes, poor Jake. And I can sympathize with Sirach because we're almost exactly the same age. He's like just a couple months younger than I am, and all I can say is getting old sucks. But yes, dude, like I don't think he had any idea what he was getting into. I don't. He just like, hey, you want to do Jake? Sure. Yeah. One would think because the guys
they don't get full,
on Earth, and I wonder what he would think when he finally saw this episode and realized what he had done.
Well, they don't get sent full scripts to these, Chris. They only get their sides, so they're not aware of the full scripts. To particularly if they're key cast members or potential spoilers, I should say. They only know the stuff that they film, Chris. So that would line up with what you've said.
Yeah. Well, it's I view that as separate. Because it didn't jive with the whole thing. And one thing that I mentioned jokingly in my video while screaming, but it's really true. There are certain elements. Seeing Jake Sisko with the original actor Sirach Lofton show up, and one of the only good performances we've seen maybe the only good performance we've seen so far. The contrast between a character from DS9 compared to what we have now. And I don't think I don't even know if he acts anymore, but the guy is leagues ahead of everybody else on the show.
Well, I was going to ask you that because I thought you'd be the one guy who'd probably know.
I don't think he does.
Should I be ashamed? Because I haven't seen him in anything since Deep Space Nine finished in 1999. I wouldn't say I try to follow the actors and actresses' careers when they've been in shows I like, but you can't always. There's a lot of people. And I thought this was a very strong, charismatic performance on a kind of level as Tony Todd, that character that he played when he played the old Jake in Deep Space Nine itself. I thought this was a superb, intuitive performance that was leagues ahead of anything, as you say, of anything that we've seen on this show. And to be honest, most things that we've seen in Star Trek in recent years. But to the best of my knowledge, Sirach doesn't really act anymore. And yet he's able to bring this right away. I thought it was magnificent, and it's just wasted in this.
Well, Dan, I think the linchpin here is obviously he was not cast by Kurtzman Trek. This is an actor that was cast when he would have been just 14 when they started filming it. And everybody hates Wesley Crusher. I don't know anybody that hates Jake Sisko. He was like the anti-Wesley Crusher. But again, I think the degree that he is so much more talented as an actor is because he was cast 30 years ago by much more competent people. I can only imagine what would happen had they recast Jake Sisko and what they would have done to the poor character like they did to Dax with Slappy.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason that I agree with Dan to your estimation, I thought that his two scenes were the best thing about the episode, because I think the reason it worked well for me is because clearly it worked on two levels. One is that Jake is talking about his dad, and second, it was clear from the way it was written that it was Sirach Lofton talking about Avery Brooks, because they had a tremendously close relationship. I understand they're still very close. He refers to him, I guess, at apparently like a party where he was there with Avery Brooks' real son, as here's my sons. So and that just came shining through, is the fact that it worked on that kind of dual level. So I thought that was very good. But the thing about and the reason, to Chris's point about everybody hated Wesley and everybody loved Jake, is because I think you can argue that the relationship between Sisko and Jake is basically at the core of the entire Deep Space Nine
it's how it
series.
starts.
But the one thing about, clearly it seems like this episode was designed to get us to, one of the things was to get us to like the Sam character.
It did not happen.
Because, she does this kind of, it starts out where she does this slow walk, like she's John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever. She's walking down the corridor, and everybody, literally everybody, turns to look at her like she's just the coolest thing ever. They stop whatever in their tracks to look at her, and they're just agog at how magnificent she is. And then we get the scene of her dancing, and then we've already discussed how basically she goes in and derides the Bajorans' entire spiritual belief. And I was so hoping that she would get a dressing down from Mahali Hunter on that. But no, I guess that's fine. No worries about it. And then they're in the bar and she's getting drunk and she says, "Oh, you have a firm booty, Mir." And it's like, at that point, it's like, God, I hate this character. But the one thing I think that also is kind of insulting as a longtime Star Trek fan is that all of the member berries they throw into these episodes are just so obviously surface level. It's like they Googled Deep Space Nine and Benjamin Sisko, and they thought, what are the characters of Benjamin Sisko? Oh, we've got to mention baseball, we got to mention gumbo, and we've got to mention, I don't know what else. And it's like, that's all there is. And even the member berries, like, remember the scene where at the beginning where she's looking at some kind of display with all of like a lot of the member worlds of the new Federation stuff. And two of the worlds there, they misspell Ferenginar, by the way, on that. But they also Two of the worlds are listed as Kazon Prime and Herosian Prime. As like a sop to voice. Now, the Kazon, which was the big Voyager antagonist for about the first couple of seasons. Yeah, because not only are they on the other side of the galaxy, but there was nothing about them that would have screamed potential Federation member. So that made no sense. And then the Herosian Prime. The Herosian were that 5-episode arc where they're like the hunters, and their entire society is based around the hunt. So much so that they don't have a home world. They're nomads out in space, and there was even a comment. There was a comment in the original one where one of the original ones where they're learning about the Herosian, and they said that they're nomads, they're dispersed out, so much so that they're going to hunt themselves to extinction because they're so isolated and spread out. And there was even a comment in one of the episodes that in 1,000 years, no one's going to remember the name Herosian because they've hunted themselves to extinction. So it makes no sense that Herosian Prime, which is not a thing, is, now all of a sudden a Federation member. And the last thing, and then I'll get off my soapbox, the reason that I cannot stand the Sam character and all these member berries, two things really. Why is a hologram crying? If anybody can explain that to me, I'm dying to know. But the second is where she's at the Bajoran Center, and the Bajoran teacher or leader who's there reaches over. If you're David, you might not know what this was because you haven't watched Deep Space Nine, but touches her ear and goes, "Oh, your paw is very strong." A hologram cannot have a paw. It's a life force that sentient beings have. She's not alive. She's a computer program. She cannot have a freaking paw. It's like, God damn, I hated this episode.
I was thinking that as well, Gary. Well said. But it's more like we don't think about these things. And I'm going to trigger Gary again. What did you think of the orb sequence?
Okay.
Okay, so now I just forewarn. I did this to Gary on purpose because he was very mad and he thought he was done. But I'm saving my voice because I don't want to yell. So Gary's going to tell us about the orb.
That was more of a joke than because I sat there and I tried to imagine the scenario in which the Bajorans would loan one of their orbs to a museum in New Orleans for display. Here's the way it would go. Somebody would go up to the Kai and they would go, "Your Eminence, we would really like your permission to take one of your orbs and display it at the Cisco Museum in New Orleans." And their response would be, "Thank you for coming. Have a nice day." There is no way that the Bajorans would allow any of their orbs, which are sacred relics that were scattered all over the galaxy, and whenever they found one, they immediately took it back. There is no way the Bajorans would allow one just as a museum display. It's like that's right up there with Benny Russell's non-existent typewriter as, why that would be. And Chris already made the very valid point that, the orb itself, sensed this moron there and decided to turn itself off rather than chat with her anymore. It's just
I find it all a bit strange that they've got the little clubs like the Bajor Club actually on the campus, because and I know that I know that it's like it's an allegory for different kinds of it's for Buddhism and various other ideas, but from following the show, Bajor was they were people who were very, very spiritually led, and the idea they would franchise their faith in that way doesn't sit well with me. It's
not like the Mormons.
But I thought to myself, David, well, I suppose I was able to think, okay, well, it is 1,000 years. But Gary's quite right. I mean, the idea that the idea that they would these orbs would be there'd be one here, one there, like it was some sort of promo, like they'd go on tour the way a sculpture of Ozzy Osbourne would, or something.
Right.
It just doesn't. It just doesn't ring true, Rabbi. I mean,
it's like the on campuses you have the Jewish Society. So I guess it's the same sort of thing as that. But I looked up at Kerrick Lofton's IMDb. He was working like till 2007. Then he took a break and came back in 2021. He did a couple of Star Trek fan things, but like he wasn't really acting for like 10, 15 years.
He's an accomplished podcaster as well, Rabbi. He's had his own podcast for a number of years. Initially, he did it with Aaron Eisenberg, the late Aaron Eisenberg, who played Nog on Deep Space Nine.
Right.
Aaron Eisenberg was also one of the Kazon. The Herodian were the like lobster-like people. They like the hologram technology because they can hunt them. Right, and that we could unify their species, right? And then, so wouldn't that be a bit of a clash with the holograms? I don't know. I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be excited to bump into him if I was a hologram.
Seriously though, there were some people on social media or some sites on social media, mainly off Facebook, that were calling this the best episode before it was even transmitted, the best episode of Kurtzman-related Star Trek
Virtue
that's ever
signaling.
been written.
Well,
And what I've checked some of the profiles of these individuals, and without being political, they are all displaying a certain flag that I'm sure Ms. Eilish would like to talk about in the Middle East. And support. They're all supporting other sorts of collective viewpoints, and probably haven't got an individual thought process going on in their minds.
David, these are what we call these are what we call the posers. One thing that I always say, and I've had this stance for a few years. Whenever you're talking to one of these sad individuals, you always say your viewpoint. No, it's not their viewpoint. They don't actually understand the viewpoint that they've adopted. These are sad people that historically we would have referred to as losers, who are desperate for validation. So the younger people, they are so desperate to be in their certain group that you have to have the flags, you have to have the pronouns, you have to have the right views that you don't know anything about. When you're in Hollywood, like my avatar right now, or the music industry, you have to have these viewpoints because you don't understand these viewpoints. Nobody else understands these viewpoints, but everybody has adopted that you suck unless you have these viewpoints. So you spout them off, and then eventually somebody digs themselves a hole, like our friend Billy did this week, and that's absolutely hilarious. But no, it's I'd say posers is the word that you want to use for. These are the people that back in the 90s, when we were not like they are right now, but you always had the rapper kids, the famous white rapper. Those were the stereotypical posers who or the skaters who have never tried out a skateboard in their life. They want to cultivate an image to fit in somewhere. And then if you put one of these skaters on a skateboard, it's hilarious because they don't actually know how to do it. So it's like every generation has had these. The only problem is now we have a generation which is like 90% these, and then you have the 10% that are like not like that. Thank God, at least that exists. But no, it's posers. It's pathetic. Like nobody objectively, aside from Cirroc Lofton, which is something completely separate from all this, and I will say it is heartfelt because him and Avery Brooks, even Avery Brooks himself said in one of the DS9 interviews, which on the DVD set, which was done about 4 years after the show ended, that he didn't really have much relationship with anybody on the show, and really none after the show, with the exception of Cirroc, who he basically took on as the son. There's never been much about Cirroc's private life online. I think actually Avery Brooks had a lot to do with that. Because he was, from the time he met, he became very protective of Jake because Jake was just, a 14-year-old kid. I think the assumption is that maybe he was raised by a single mother, but again, we don't know. But we know that Avery Brooks almost became like Sirach's adopted father. And I know that's a relationship that continues to this day. So that was the one thing that was accidentally included, where you could tell that he was talking about Avery Brooks, who he actually does really see as his father. So that was in there accidentally. But outside of that, nobody, I don't care how delusional you are. If you look at this objectively, there is nothing good in this episode. This is horrific. Even if you know nothing about Star Trek, this is horrific. Even the little symbolistic jab of Brittany spitting out the Raktajino. Literally, that's like a symbolic, literally spitting in the face, metaphorically, to Star Trek fans, because for those of you who don't know, Raktajino is Klingon coffee, which was popularized on DS9.
That's right.
Everybody drank Raktajino. From what I hear, it was like molten lava. So I'm assuming nobody at that point has taste buds. But even little things like that, as soon as I kind of knew I knew he was going to do it. Oh, Raktajino, he's not going to like it. He spits it out. This stuff, the show just sucks. It's one big troll. It's almost like I got the keys to this show that I hate, and I really hate its fans. So I've got more money that I know what to do with, because for some reason they gave me $16 million an episode. I don't care. I'm getting paid. So it's like I was given a show, and my mission is, how can I piss off its fan base as much as possible? Because it's like a tick box of the worst possible things you could do to this franchise. I'm not joking. Discovery looks normal now compared to this show. Yeah. This is a farce. And again, I will repeat the comments that I made before this aired when I was pleading with Skydance not to show it. I don't know how easy it's going to be, or if the franchise can ever get over the damage that is done by this show, because this is Star Trek's equivalent of, there's a British show we don't mention by name, and a certain actor, the most recent actor that finally killed the show. This is Star Trek's version of that, where it's like, you can only go so far with the crap, and then eventually you go too far and you kill your show, like that British show did.
I think it's worse, Chris. I think this is actually worse if you're comparing franchises. I think what they're doing here.
This is the worst thing I've ever seen. Like the difference between the show, which shall not be named, is the last couple years of that were so spiteful, they were actually humorous. This is just bad.
Yeah.
This is just unbelievable.
Like, Dan, do you have any do you have any shots of Holly Hunter laying down? Do you have the screen grab of her laying down on the couch from this episode?
We got this one.
Oh, but you know which scene I'm talking about, where she's laying down?
No, I don't.
When the war guy comes in.
I know the scene you're talking about,
and she's lying down. I thought, okay, I cannot take this. I cannot take this character. I mean, her lying down or not being able to sit up is a joke at this point, and it makes her character a joke, because she's lying down there, for that entire dialogue. And I was practically yelling at the screen, sit up like a functional adult. But my theory is, Dan, is that, remember a couple episodes ago with the prank episode, and she's sitting there in her pajamas, and all the cadets are there, and she's giving them a dressing down about the escalating prank war. And there's one quick scene where she's kind of starting to get up out of her chair, and she goes like, oh,
the chiropractor scene.
Right. Here's my theory. Holly Hunter actually really did throw her back out in that scene. And so if this episode was filmed right after, she probably said, can I just have a scene where I'm laying down? And that's why that entire scene in this episode, she's just laying flat, because she really did throw out her back.
No, I think it's an acting choice. I think her name is the same name as the lion cub in The Lion King. Somebody was saying earlier.
Yeah,
Dan said that.
She loved that, or she picked that, right? Because she picks the character, right?
I think you're
Lord.
right. I think you're right. I mean, we could say that at least we're halfway through, but we think, oh God, we're only halfway through. I think it's an ideal time. We took a little bit of a break. We've vented quite enough for the moment. We've got some comments to get stuck into there in the live chat because we're live streaming this to Rumble and to YouTube and see what everybody else has got to say. And we've also had our censors there checking out what is being said by the broader cultural landscape as well. Whilst we're composing ourselves or recomposing ourselves, you check out this.
Hi, I'm Chris, and this is Anna with MCI. She recently started a great friends and family calling circle.
A group of friends that wanted to get back in touch.
I believe I actually said we should resume communicating.
So Anna called and I signed up.
And Chris called me. I thought if anybody belongs in friends and family, it's us.
I used to get tired of staring at those faces. Now I kind of miss them.
I joined to save the 20% because when I call him, I end up talking to an answering machine, which is more interesting than he is.
I'm usually home. I'm just selective about the calls I take.
When they were forming the circle, they obviously saved the best for last.
Oh, that's why she called me next.
Who is that?
How did you get in there?
There seems to be some error.
I believe you were in the wrong circle.
Call and start saving an extra 20% on calls to your own friends and family circle.
Every week, thousands of people join the millions who already have MCI friends and family. If you'd like to be one of them, give us a ring. After all, shouldn't your least expensive calls be to the people you care about and call all the time?
Good toupee this week. Fantastic toupee.
So how do we rate that on the scale then? I think that was when are we placing that? So we've got Jonathan Frakes in there with a beard, so it's at least 88, maybe 89, I would say.
Yeah.
So it would be after the Vic 20 adverts. But it would be after the airline advert from last week as well.
Yeah.
So we're heading into as technology was evolving, and he would approach the time where having plugs put in would be an option, David. So where do you rate that?
That's an 8.5 out of 10 syrup. That is, I would say that's bordering. That's way above Bruce Forsyth and Frankie Howard. That is top quality. I'm on good money toupee. I'm not sure if Chris would agree with me on that one, but I think that's probably the best toupee we've seen yet.
It could potentially be. I don't know when he got his hair plugs. I know it was either late 90s or early 2000s.
Yeah, late 90s.
It was at some point in Star Trek Generations in 94. It was very clearly still a toupee because it was the curly hair. By the time he started doing Boston Legal in 2004, it was very clearly like actual hair, and so was the hair transplant.
I've actually started rewatching that, Chris.
What, Boston Legal?
Yeah.
I have all but the last season on DVD. It's if you guys haven't seen it,
I've never
a great
seen
show. And actually, that's where
people tell me it's good.
And when you see sort of the modern imitations of William Shatner, they're actually imitating Denny Crane from that show.
Yeah, love Denny Crane.
Which is kind of funny, but literally, it's like they all became based on that. You know that the video that Dan played.
I think that could be because that's where the clip of him with Jerry Ryan and Rene Aubergenois comes from, isn't it?
But that's where the William Shatner that's where the meme comes from, because he didn't sound like that in the original Star Trek. On Rescue 911, for those of you who've seen, I'm sure Gary knows what I'm talking about, but I don't think the UK people do. But Rescue 911, to put it in context, it was basically they would reenact 911 emergencies, and this is one of the most gruesome shows you will ever see. And it was narrated by William Shatner, and he is literally the voice of doom in that show.
And he's not just the voice; he kind of comes in for the intros and outros, like in a suit and everything. And
he looks like the Equalizer.
Kind of like I don't know if they had this in the UK or in Canada. A show called Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack. Where he would kind of come in and introduce the.
We had those shows, but they were on cable channels, so we had all of those shows, but they were on. You had to pay a premium to watch them, so not that many people could watch them back then. But
I think you can find clips online. But no, if you guys haven't seen it, like Robert Stack and William Shatner, because they used to play these shows back to back. It was either Wednesday or Thursday nights. They were both an hour long. They do Unsolved Mysteries, then they do Rescue 911. They were the shows of Doom, and Robert Stack and William Shatner. Their voices scared the living crap out of every kid. No, I love Captain Kirk, and because I used to watch Rescue 911, and literally, it's like if Final Destination had a TV show. It's horrifying. So I'm like, for a while, I'm like, every week I was scared to death by Captain.
Well, Robert Stack was great on that show because if you remember him, if for nothing else, the airplane movies, Robert Stack always introduced this, Chris, with like this undertone of panic in his voice, like tonight on Unsolved Mysteries, we have this for you, and it's like, oh my!
I think
God.
it could be. I think it could be a lot of fun to go and watch some of those things in the future. Boston Legal and Shatner doing other kinds of work. I think that could be a lot of fun. God knows we're going to need it by the time we're done with Starfleet Academy. we have the hailing frequencies open, and people, we've got some great comments here, lots of new names as well. So people we can sort of get stuck into with their opinions of episode 5 series acclamation mill. I know. Just keep it away from me. Keep it away from me. Stephen Braddock was the first in. Hi, everyone. That episode of Starfleet Academy was the single worst episode of Star Trek I've ever seen. And a very angry face there, Gary. Very much the face that you were pulling 5-6 minutes ago there. But it's clearly felt universally, this tremor.
Now I understand to an infinitesimal degree only what Chris goes through every week.
Well,
PD Rich is also...
I have to spend another day with this crap. After we're done this, I got to record my voiceover. I'm not done yet. I have to go through this at least one more time tomorrow for screen caps.
PD Rich has also joined us, who's one of our moderators here at the Spacebook channel. Thank you. Thank you, PD, for being here. Well, it looks like Kirsten Bayer shot herself in the foot, Rabbi. Personally, I'd ban her from doing any Star Trek ever again in caps. You can only give so many people so many chances, surely, Rabbi.
I mean, like, I think it might be the case that what's the name? She was there just to do the technical stuff and let Tawny Newsom do the writing.
Do the jokes.
And maybe she was an advisor on Deep Space Nine, and she was the Wikipedia they had for it. I don't know. Who gives a shit? No one gives a shit. The people who make this don't give a shit. No one gives a shit. Why? Like Paramount, fuck you. I hope Netflix get that Warner Brothers right, and they crush you into oblivion. Although the guy did Predator Badlands apparently has just signed up to exclusive deal with the Paramount now.
Yeah, they're going to want to grab him by the away from Hulu. Oh, that's big news. Dan Trachtenberg, if he's gone from Hulu, from the Disney over to somewhere else, they're going to feel that. They're going to feel that. Chris Snyder, says in the live chat, I still think that Starfleet Academy would be great if I was from the Mirror Universe.
Yes.
There we go. I get it. Stephen says that Tawny Newsom as Dax was a slap in the face.
Yeah.
Totally ruined the memory of a beloved character. Now, I didn't feel that. I think it's largely because I didn't remotely believe, no matter what she said, that it was the same character. It all had that feeling of dress up about it. None of this matters. They don't take it seriously. So why should I, Chris? That's how I.
That's all about ego. Literally, she cast herself as Dax, so she's the next Dax.
So she can turn up and do a scene every 3 or 4 years and be part of a lineage.
Oh no, I guarantee she'll probably become a regular next season.
Oh, Chris, don't say that.
It keeps Gary. It gets worse every week.
Oh, no.
We're only 5 episodes in, and this is the worst Star Trek episode we've ever seen. So God help us next week.
It does seem to get worse. Oh dear me! Did the Next Generation do a Trill story before Deep Space Nine started?
Yes.
I think it was before, wasn't it, Chris? Before
about 2 years before, it was in season 4.
Yeah, they did.
Vaguely remember. Because
it was Riker who became a temporary host.
Yeah,
I believe for the Trill.
Yeah,
I remember. Was the Klingon wearing a skirt? Asks Farsight. People, it's the position that I was at last week and the week before. You see this stuff and you hear this stuff and think, did I really hear what I think I heard? Did I really see what I think I'm seeing? People can't quite believe their eyes or ears, I think, Rabbi.
It's like this one. Like the rest of the ones, I've been like, well, it's just a YA story with the Star Trek campaign. This is just again what I would like. If they played the video of them making this in the writing room, it'd be way more entertaining. Wouldn't you love to have seen this come together? Like how? No. How do they think vomiting rainbow glitter, queer glitter, is a good idea? Like what? Oh God! Every part of this sucks.
You know what would have redeemed this episode is that the final scene would have been after she got cute and she was like, "I'm out of here." You know, basically, they're all powerful. They can stop time. So basically, I would have loved the last scene to be, you know, she just gets zapped back to her makers, and then they say, terminate program, and then the screen comes back.
See, that's a hollow sweet ending we wouldn't mind. The opposite of Star Trek Enterprise. Lucy is also joining us on YouTube there, watching. Lucy, hi, happy Saturday, Lucy. Well, happy Saturday, maybe happy. Kurtzman Trek is not real Star Trek, therefore nothing in these shows really matters. That's probably why I feel the way I feel. And Stephen adds that we were talking about Avery Brooks and his likeness they may have not had the rights to use his face at all, his aspect, his likeness.
I guarantee that's the case. I think
we do get some dialogue from him at the end of the episode, and I wasn't
not
sure.
From Star Trek. That was
again, I wasn't sure because I don't research these before I watch them. I try and go in as cold as I can, and I did have a couple of things in this spoiled for me ahead of time because there's been so much conversation around it. But I didn't know that was going to happen at the end, and it didn't sound like dialogue I recognized, but that did sound like Ben Sisko. So I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't emotionally touched by hearing Avery Brooks in character again. That did touch me, and I was also affected when it went into the Deep Space Nine theme tune. But the rest of it, the other 58 minutes that come before, hadn't touched me at all. But where does that soundtrack come from then? Because according to Stephen Braddock here on YouTube, they may have lifted the track from an old jazz LP.
It came from a spoken word album that he did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they scoured his because he's got a couple of narrated albums or spoken word.
Yeah,
and I think they scoured them looking for something that might have fit, and they came across this quote about love. And then I was actually the DS9 theme at the end just made me very, very sad, and I'm going to have to leave in about 2 minutes.
It was lovely to hear it. It was lovely, of course, mate. It was lovely to hear that music again. It really was. They're writing themselves into the characters. Suggests I am your servant. Is it? Do you think it's that simple, David? They're doing the old thing. It's like just place yourself into the story. I mean, the Rabbi's spoken about this several times. The difference between how boys and girls play when they're children, how they imagine themselves into stories being different. And I think that women and men write different. I think you're bang on with that. And I think that the female writers, more often than not, they do the same thing. And that's what
they missed the room. Sorry.
My daughter studies criminology. They've spent a whole semester on when serious criminals, write fantasies. And essentially, they write the fantasies that they would like to act out. And that is... if you go back to a lot of screenwriters, sometimes screenwriters will say that they always wanted to be actors, but they weren't good enough, so they decided to write their material as if it was them in the role and have other people act it out for them. So it is something that's quite disturbing, but also links with creative writing as well.
But in this context, it's lazy though. They don't have the talent They don't have the talent to craft a character out of whole cloth. Yeah. So all they can do is put themselves in the character. That's correct. Lazy.
And if you've got somebody who's not competent who's doing it, or is less competent than somebody who is able to do it very well, then that's what you get. You get lazy product. You get what you get on screen or in a book is, quite frankly, lazy.
You know, it would be really cool if they had like some of the writers on Deep Space Nine in the show, like Sir Lofton, like to say, like the professor about Deep Space Nine could have been Ira. What's the name? Ira Stephen Bear. Yeah. Which he looks crazy anyway. And he could totally do it.
Yeah. And, although on that note, I'm going to have to do a cracker screaming.
Well, you have our sympathy and admiration, Chris. But
I think I offended Rabbi. I mentioned free crackers and he runs away.
Godspeed.
But
you'll need it.
So on behalf of myself and Billy, yes. So folks, I have to go. If I have to go, or I'll never get this voiceover recorded. So I'm about to go, as I do every week, scream into a microphone for half an hour. God pray for my voice, but this was terrible. This is possibly
it was nice knowing you, Chris.
Yeah, but you can't wait for the sex scene, can you?
It's going to get worse. I know it's going to get worse. Next week is going to be hell. So on behalf of myself and Billy, have a good time. We'll find out more about Frank next. Even Frank and Satan didn't want anything to do with this week's episode, so maybe we'll find out next week.
Right.
But cheers, everyone.
Good to speak to you. Take care, mate.
Take care, dude.
Kablach.
Sirach was the best part of the whole episode as PD Rich. I don't disagree with that at all. And we've got some new comments too from new names, people who haven't been around here before. Bay in the studio says Jake was styled to look like Avery Brooks without having Avery Brooks down to the Afrocentric scarf. Yeah, he was dressed. He was dressed in like a spiritual leader, I think. I mean, I don't know if that's tribal as such, but it does speak of that kind of culture of African dress of some kind. You know, I can't quite put my finger on it, but the cut of that which he's wearing does suggest that, yes. But obviously we're 1,000 years into
that also is very similar to what Tony Todd's older Jake wore in the Visitor episode.
I think I'm gonna. You know what? I suggest we go back and watch that, and once we're done with this nightmare, that would be an ideal episode to pick up with.
That makes me that episode. That's the only episode of Star Trek and I've seen it several times, and I cry every time because I think about my own dad.
It's something you can watch in isolation as well. So yeah, and Bay in the studio continues. You know, this would have been an opportunity for Sam to look at Sisko's life being preordained as a mirror to her life, in essentially that being as a hologram, she'd be programmed to follow a set path. There was potential. I know people were aghast when I said this. I feel that at its very seed, there was potential in this story. And when I watch a show like this all too regularly with new Star Trek, but a lot of modern television, when you look at the seed of the story in the middle of it, you think, oh, that could have gone somewhere really interesting or affecting. And then they take it somewhere else, either for ideological reasons or simply due to a lack of talent. And it all gets lost. There was potential in there, in my opinion, and we'll never know because none of this will ever be returned to. They got bored with her arc. In fact, they got bored with the A plot and the B plot before the end of this episode. So the idea that they could return to either of them over the next 15 episodes, because there's not going to be any more of this shit after next year. It's just not going to happen. So all of this is damage being done to the franchise and to the stuff that we loved completely unnecessarily. Sam is the worst character in the history of Star Trek, Gary. Your thoughts?
Agree, because, I mean, for an episode that was clearly designed to make us love her, I hate her now. I cannot physically stand the sight of her, especially in an episode that was filmed with the camera being a quarter of a centimeter away from her face all the time.
I'm longing for Spock's brain. Okay, that's how bad.
Yeah, that would have won an Emmy. I'm sure it would have done. Spock's brain compared to this, it's a masterpiece.
Another new name in the live chat. Thanks for watching. Anton Smith, who says, "I'm curious." Well, it's just as curious. Why do people fear what they don't want to understand? Also, do people treat Star Trek like a sacred cow? I'm not quite sure where you're coming from with this, Anton. Is this a Well, I want to know if this is a general question or is it particular to this episode? I mean, when you say people, do you mean these people, the 4/5 of us? Is that what you mean by people? Can we be a little bit more specific? Because this sounds a touch passive-aggressive and a little bit ignorant. I'm sure that you may be coming from a different place, Anton, but if you want to go into greater detail, we'd be happy to answer, of course. Some of us do treat Star Trek as sacred to some degree, if its fundamentals, its foundations are not observed. And when a franchise has traded on a law, has built up a law, celebrated law, and sold us law in everything, particularly in literature, for decades, it's understandable if they've been telling us that it's important all that time. It's not surprising that a large chunk of the audience are going to view it as important. So that's why some of us do treat it as sacred, because in the past, the franchise has treated it as sacred. As for why do people fear what they don't want to understand, are you suggesting that we are deliberately misreading the episode, or that we are, or that we have a prejudice against the material? Is that what you're suggesting? If you have responsible
in the chat, he says he's talking about the episode. So he's curious, why do people fear what they don't understand?
I'm not sure what we didn't understand.
No. I don't think he's talking about us. He's talking about the people who made the episode, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've got some more. We've got some more comments as well. So we'll if we get to Anton's, then we'll get to Anton's. Not Banksy says they couldn't care less about Star Trek. They only care about wearing it as a skin suit to better push their message, which is their one and only purpose. Oh, thank you, Not Banksy. Obviously, this is something we hear a lot, particularly in the independent commentators space, where generally we can speak a lot more freely. And I don't think, look, is there anybody that disagrees with Not Banksy's comment?
Nope.
No, it's dead on.
Thank you, Not Banksy. And we've got another one from Anton, who says, another question: how will Star Trek not just survive, but actually thrive for the next 60 years? The fans of 2026 will not look nor necessarily feel like the fans of 2086.
They've got to shut this crap down. I mean, Skydance is coming in, burn off everything that's left, and then just give us something that lets us know that
the way we're going, Gary, there won't be any fans left by 2029. Never mind 2086. That's the harsh truth.
Here's a quick question. Here's a quick question for you guys, and I ask this completely seriously. Now that we've seen this particular episode versus Section 31, which is worse?
Section 31.
No, this
really?
is worse.
I would say this is worse.
This is worse.
I mean,
I've not seen Section 31.
I suppose
Section 31 does have a sexy, what's the one of those?
The Delton.
That really sold it on me. That's the best thing in it.
The Section 31 TV movie did so much irreparable damage. It was so badly. I hate to say it. I mean, this was poor. Don't get me wrong, but that was unrecognizable. I couldn't even see the seeds of what they were trying to do with it. It was poor on every single level. I couldn't even see the potential in there for what they were thinking. So, and it's easily one of the worst 90 minutes of anything I've ever seen in my life. Whereas this was just a piece of shit. So, yeah, I personally, my view, but
this was like a shit had a shit, right? It is so shit. I can't. This is the most stinkiest shit I've ever been. Oh, Dan, yours not working. You're
muted.
I think you're back with
Can
us.
you hear me now?
Hey, you're back.
I think the sacred cow
I
thing
accidentally.
was...
Excuse me just a moment.
All right.
Excuse me just for 1 second. I need to. My mic. It wasn't. I hadn't muted. My software had updated. So there we are. It's it does that now and again. Okay, David, what are you saying?
Yeah, sorry. You had a Queen Charlotte moment. Yeah, the sacred cow thing. That's a really, really interesting question, and I've been thinking about it for the last 4 minutes. I don't think Star Trek fans do treat it as a sacred cow, because I think what the Star Trek fans are all about is because they've had a lot of different shows around with the Star Trek premise over the years. Original series, the films, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, before you get into the downturn of it all. What I think Star Trek fans do take seriously is that they're happy to see the show change and go forward and have new iterations, as long as the vision and the general sort of rule book that has been made and developed over the years is stuck to. And when you start pissing about with that rule book and that vision and turning it into something completely different, I think that's when fans, whatever franchise it is, start to take umbrage, because you then get something which does not stick to, or sort of betrays the concept of what has been built up over the years. And so, for example, what we've had over the last 5 weeks, and some people will say Section 31, some people will say Discovery.
It's the same affliction. It's the same affliction that's infected it at multiple places, I feel.
Yeah.
Multiple.
And it sort of pisses on that franchise, on that previous sort of, okay, we're gonna develop this, but we're still gonna sort of stick to the same rules of engagement. We might change a few, we might develop a few rules, but we're going to stick to what we've got. We're going to stick to the rule book. But we're going to take it new places. But you've got to have those foundations in place. Because without the foundations, it's akin to building your empire or your village or your buildings on a great big huge bed of sand next to the sea. And all that's going to come in is that the sea's going to come in and it's going to wash away the foundations, and everything's going to topple over. So I don't think, I would like not to think that we treat it as a sacred cow, but what we want it to do is to respect the vision and the concepts that have been built and developed as series have come and gone, and not just kick them all down and set them on fire, which I think these latest series have done.
I know I sound like a broken record. It's down to the writers. It's either ego or they're imposters, they're ideologues, or simply inexperienced writers, and they shouldn't be in the jobs. I'm your servant, says the writers are the same people who think all cultures are completely equal. They cannot write because they have zero real world experience, and what they think they know is deeply flawed. People who are very sure of what they think, Gary, who have very closed minds, I find, which is it's people who tend to be left-wing people, particularly far left-wing people, are the most certain about everything. They know it all. They know you better than they know yourself. Right. It's that kind of mentality.
We're the unenlightened masses, Dan, and they see it as their moral duty to, bring enlightenment and correct our mental aberration and get them to the correct way of thinking, which is
if we see
on their side.
If we see their way, then everything will be fine.
I mean, as far as I don't think in the long term. Look, this show is too negligible to ever ruin, the great kind of giants that came before, the original series, Next Gen, Deep Space Nine. This show is too flimsy and puny to have that effect. So I don't hate this show because I'm thinking that it's going to ruin Trek. It doesn't. That's giving this way too much credit.
I agree.
But speaking for myself, I don't treat Star Trek as like sacred. It's not my religion, because all of us could sit here and rattle off at least 10 poor episodes from every single one of the original series. So it's not that it's infallible.
That's why broadly people care so much, though, isn't it? Because we've been told to care.
Well, and like I said, we don't think it's infallible, but the show has meant so much to us in different ways. We've loved the characters, we've loved the stories. We go back and revisit them time and time again. We identify it with formative experiences in our lives and stuff. So it has meaning for each of us, different meanings. And just the idea of these no talents coming along and, as basically David said, kind of, pulling down their zipper and basically pissing off something that we don't hold sacred, but that we value, it's just insulting.
That's a key difference.
I think that's what it is. Oh, and by the way, the whole thing about, what you were talking about, Dan, not, somebody who you kind of, they demean what they don't agree. I actually now think that was the origin of Sam's line, where she comes into the Bajoran Center and says, "Yeah, I just want the facts. I don't want your how does she say it? She goes, what's the word she uses to nonsense?" Because the Bajor is based on a religious, spiritual culture. So it doesn't surprise me that these writers would use the opportunity to call it nonsense, because that's probably what they think about any
faith,
faith or spiritual beliefs.
No, you're quite right. According to Christopher Snyder in the live chat on YouTube, the next great Alan Kurtzman Star Trek project could be called Star Trek Blackberry. I don't know if that's a joke or not. I don't get it, whatever. But as far as I'm aware, Alex Kurtzman, this is his parting shot, Starfleet Academy, as far as I'm aware. We've got...
may I say, for all people who've loved Star Trek throughout time, fuckity bye-bye, right? Just fuckity bye-bye.
Things can't get better, they keep saying.
Wooden Hill to Bedford just shortly.
Your crackers have been creamed. Yes, we have got a reply from Anton here. So yes, according to Anton, yes, he was talking about the episode, not an attack directed at anybody. Sorry, it's
fine.
No
Anton.
apology required, Anton. We do get people who turn up here who are very adversarial, you see, and who attack with prejudice. And so yes, I regret the misunderstandings there. Thank you for sticking around and keep commenting by all means.
Absolutely.
We've got I'm a TNG guy, says Funky, because Babylon 5 and DS9 came out around the same time. It kind of put us off both. I suppose some people could have been put off, but I love them both as well.
I really got to rewatch Duet or Duet.
I've never seen all of it all the way through, so I need to do that.
David, start at the first. Don't skip around because it's serialized.
I know that's why, because I was at university and I kept missing episodes, so
maybe
I
when
found
this is
it
over,
quite hard.
Maybe then when this is over, we should just start at the beginning, 2 episodes a week.
Yeah,
Gorgonzola's my name. What a brilliant name!
Very good.
I love the name.
I love
the name. So thank you for joining us. Gorgon says anyone who thinks woke shit is left should get an upgrade on political education. Anyone who thinks woke shit is left should get an upgrade. Gorgon, a great name. You're completely wrong, my friend. Wokeism, woke ideology is left wing. It comes from the left. Identity politics is an instrument of the left. So you're wrong, pal. But happy Saturday. Thanks for joining us anyway.
Love you anyway.
Love the name.
We've got, if I'm correct, the bad school, the bad school next door, the bad school, the War College uses the classic Star Trek insignia.
Oh, really?
I had wondered about that.
I hadn't
But
noticed
that tells
that.
you everything.
Okay.
Now, if they hadn't have fucked up Section 31 with that god-awful TV movie, I get the impression that would have been attached to or some sort of subsidiary of Section 31.
Yeah.
I don't know. But they can't do that because they've buggered it up. And this is what I mean about that TV movie. Section 31 will now never, ever be mentioned ever again in Star Trek. That was such a stinker.
Yeah.
Apparently, Kurtzman got carpeted over that, and that's largely the reason why any extension to his deal, any deal with them for anything at all, not just Star Trek, is not going to happen, specifically because of Section 31. Rabbi, your crackers look well creamed. Pal.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, my deadlifting crystals are expired. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody. God, this was
Thank
awesome.
you, Rabbi.
Really
Hey, Rabbi, we'll see you next week for the sex episode.
Yeah. Hey, is Rabbi in it?
Really? No, I haven't looked ahead. I have no idea what's going to make up the rest.
No, like
of the
I told you, like I said, they said people who've. I don't know anything about it, what the plot is, but apparently people who've seen it. The last pre-release episode is that there's an explicit sex scene in it, and it will be rated MA mature audiences. First time ever in Trek.
As long as it's girls only.
No, it's going to be between. It's going to be between with Plumpy and
you know what, Dan, they might do. You know how we got the Klingon lettering at the beginning, and we got the crayons this time where it says a Paramount Studios production. Two of the letters will kind of get on top of each other. That's how the next episode will open up.
In association with Pornhub, it'll probably be.
Okay. Oh, God. Okay. I can't even think 7 days into the future. I can't do it to myself. But Bay in the studio says, is that Bay or Boy? Bay in the studio says, Star Trek's writers remind me of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry trying to reimagine the royal family for a modern audience. And no, thank you for being here. Yeah, I'm amazed. You know what? Now that Bay has said that, I'm amazed they haven't tried to get Meghan Markle into this show somewhere, because everybody hates her. And she's a total hypocrite. So she's a perfect fit because
they should have got her to play the mom.
What they'll be doing is they'll introduce her as a sort of alien race demanding privacy, whilst trying to advertise their latest peace deal with the Federation.
Don't happen. Star Trek is supposed to be about getting along, about being fair, about having a future, not about dividing. Or it's not meant to be overly political. It's supposed to be fair to some degree. Well, yeah, people overstate the Star Trek's edict. They reinterpret it and reframe it to suit themselves. I say people, I mean lefties. Let's be honest. Right.
It's supposed
people,
to give you something.
It's
supposed to give you something to think about, not tell you how to think.
Precisely. Summed it up far more beautifully and more politely than I did. Kurtzman is nothing without Orchie and bad. Anyway, the late Robert Orchie, of course, died a few years ago. He was clearly the talent in the room, in that particular writer's room. I don't understand what that comment is. Nope, says Gorgon. So Gorgon disagrees. So you're not wrong. I think you need to give your head a wobble, my friend. It's not even open for debate. If you think that wokeism isn't a product of the left, I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know. They openly talk about it all the time. You ever heard of Ash Sarkar? Go and look her up. Wokeism started the trap card in the deck of communist subversion, according to Lucy. What's a trap card? I don't know.
Is that a D&D term? I don't know.
And Christopher Snyder says, Kirk Thatcher. I hate this. Now, Kirk Thatcher was a guest on one of our earlier live streams. The punk on the bus, as people will know Kirk from the voyage home. He was a fabulous guest here on Warp Drive a few years ago now. Very entertaining. Told us loads of stories, some of which we were able to broadcast, some of which we couldn't. I've wondered, and he was a real character, I've wondered what he would make of all of this, because Kirk, as you probably know, Gary, and you may know too, David, he's not only a talented puppeteer and an entertainer in his own right, but he's also a writer, a director, producer, and he's worked on multiple shows. He's very proud of his association with Star Trek, his friendships with various key people there, and I do wonder what somebody of that caliber, but parallel to the Star Trek franchise for a number of years now, what he will think looking across at this brand, thinking, why aren't they taking better care of it? So if Kirk has said that, I'd be very interested to hear and to read where. Thank you for that, Chris. We've got so Gorgon, we're not going to go any deeper into this because this is a Star Trek show, not a political show. But if you'd like to talk about this at some point later, then maybe we could. But thank you for the comments. I do appreciate it.
Dan, a trap card is very much like a trump card, if you see what I mean. It's designed to get one up on somebody.
Gotcha. No, so is that from a particular kind of game, or is it from just because I don't play cards?
Yeah, it's a trap card in games like Yu-Gi-Oh functions very much like a trump card in traditional
that kind of card
games. Yeah,
I think they're like poker or something like that.
Yeah, as both is designed to surprise opponents, override standard rules, and change the tide of a match.
There you go.
Yeah,
got a great comment here from Maze4 on YouTube who says Star Trek is supposed to be intelligent, philosophical stuff, not nerdy teenagers who don't know anything about anything.
Correct.
I maintain that and taking a few steps back from the cultural landscape right now and my own attachment to this brand, Gary, I believe that you could question the wisdom of creating a YA Star Trek show. It's viable to question the wisdom of that. And it's viable to question the wisdom of making Star Trek Scouts, for example, that preschool show that they've got going. You can question whether that's appropriate and wise or not for the brand broadly. But I think creatively, either of those options has potential to tell specific kinds of stories in a precise way, whereby, you wouldn't necessarily be speaking to exactly the same demographic that earlier Star Trek has, but it's a viable place to tell Star Trek-like stories. I maintain that.
Star Trek's always been, all the shows have always been filled with characters that you would either want to be, because Star Trek's always been very aspirational, or that you would want to serve with, or be on their starship, whatever. All the characters on this show, I can't see, not only you wouldn't want to be these characters, you wouldn't even want to be around these characters.
That quality, those qualities there that you've circled, you can have those characters. You can explore characters like that, whether you're telling stories for 5-year-olds, whether it's for 15-year-olds or 50-year-olds. The principle, I believe, is the same. It's just the style of writing and the format of delivery. That's what changes, and that's where I think you see the real worth of a writer. I have to blame the writers for this. I sincerely do. All of it.
Yeah. I mean, what I watched this week to help myself get over what I saw on Thursday and Friday, yesterday after that awful thing I watched last night, yesterday afternoon, I watched the TNG episode of Pen Pals, which takes a situation, and I'm not going to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, which takes a situation of someone asking for help and turns it into a right Barney between all the senior officers on the ship as to what they should do. And you have a frank exchange of views. Some of them you think, how could you be so cold? And you take a situation and use your characters intelligently, philosophically, to decide how you're going to get yourself out of a situation that you've stumbled into.
That's a good Prime Directive episode.
It is a fantastic Prime Directive episode, and I wish we could see more. The Starfleet Academy could work if you're dealing with issues like that, especially with cadets, as to, gosh, we've got ourselves into this sort of situation. We've stumbled into it. How the hell are we going to get ourselves out of it and still end up in a sort of happy ending sort of way? And I'm not talking about the happy ending that they're probably going to put on next week. You know, so and that's the sort of philosophical, intelligent, entertaining discussion that you can have with your audience without having to be preachy or anything like that.
I thought of, it just occurred to me what a good title for next week's episode, based on assuming that what I've heard is actually true. They should just call it Only Treks.
Only fools do only treks.
I'm afraid. I mean, I had a pretty rough week. I mean, I think I had on Tuesday. I think I had a new gas bill came. On Wednesday, I went out running. I got soaked through to the skin.
It was horrible.
Wednesday. On Thursday, I found out that Christina Milian married to a French bloke. And then on Friday, I watched Starfleet Academy. Next week's got to get better.
Yeah. It's like root canal without anaesthetic, that, isn't it?
Really, really, really rough week. Respect to everyone who powers through watching it. It's not easy. Says, I am your servant. It's not easy at all. And if you think we're having a hard time, you should see the stuff out there on the view screen. There's some blinders. I can't cover them all because we're overrunning quite a lot already. I know. She's got spared a lot this week. As always, Holly Hunter was fucking atrocious in this. Every single scene, diabolical. I know that she's a woman of age, so this won't affect her career, but it is really, really bad. So whoever's idea this was, I don't know. I hope whatever she buys herself, it's going to be something nice. We've got this from Blackbird, who says, Starfleet Academy, this latest is the first in a while that feels like old school Trek. Gary,
what? I mean, okay.
Hold on to your keyboard. The single character perspective, the legacy characters, the warm, humanity-centered conclusion. Fave ep so far. It really hit me that Sam is our Data Odo for this show, the singular other. I think that's what they're aiming for, and for me, they totally they messed it up.
I want to know what they've been smoking.
I'm just going to
ingesting.
I'm just going to back away slowly.
Let's move on to the next one. We've got a couple of.
They're not allowed near the cutlery drawer.
Kay, who's an influencer, David, whatever that means. Yeah. Kay says, so she's kind of the future too. So this is to do with Sam. Shout out to Tawny, because Tawny told the writers' room, if we're going to make a character that's supposed to be the future of humanity, then it has to be a black woman.
All right. First of all, that actually was my expression while I was watching this episode. So that's interesting. If this character is supposed to be the future of humanity, then humanity isn't worth saving.
I was just thinking how astonishingly racist this is. So I don't know if Tawny Newsom...
That's absolutely racist.
...said this, but I'd be very interested. I'm going to hit that link and find out exactly what she said and why, because, I would question the wisdom of employing a woman like that, certainly to write on Star Trek. And Professor R2 says, no line on the family tree from Cassidy Yates. Thanks for letting us know that Cassidy and Ben's child was never born. So that's not depressing at all. Assholes. Love letter to Deep Space Nine. My ass.
The idiotic scene in this, the idiotic part of this, the laziness in this, and I noticed this the first time I watched it, is if you just focus on a couple of names. I mean, obviously Jennifer, his wife, is there right next to Ben, and then Jake is underneath. But if you just look at a couple of other names, the names are repeated. So they only came up with a few extra names and then splattered those extra names all over.
Step and repeat. Laziness. Somebody else noticed that as well. Steve Weiss on X said, am I missing something here? There appears to be a significant error in the graphic. The wrong person is listed as the mother of the Cisco. Also, the child that the Cisco and Cassidy Yates had is missing. So, yeah, people notice this. So particularly on when you've got 4K TVs and things like that, people are going to spot this shit.
His mom was named Sarah, by the way.
They can't get away with pulling these stunts. Not anymore. People are too keen. Maybe you see these. I don't know if it means that they're sacred, but if people have watched the stuff and listened and taken it in, then it matters to them. And finally, we've got this comment here from Tricia, who said that episode 5 of Starfleet Academy ended with the Deep Space Nine intro music and was awesome. I agree with Tricia. I loved hearing that music again because I haven't watched Deep Space Nine in a long, long time. And I did find it quite touching after hearing Avery Brooks' voice again. Obviously, he's not going to return to the role under any circumstances. He's nearly 78. He's been retired for a long time. He's happily living out his retirement with his wife of 50 years this year. So, again, he obviously doesn't bear Trek any malice or the fans. And there was a thank you caption to Avery Brooks at the end of the episode, which I thought was lovely. Of course, I'd love to see him play Ben Sisko again, but it's not to be. So, yeah, I think that's part of why the emotion kind of hit for me. Just a little there with that. I agree with Tricia.
If Sammy's going to be the future of humanity, or the actress that plays her, I think finally the cats of the world will unite and man to take over, and I do feel they will be successful, and we will all end up enslaved to cats, which is a frightening prospect.
Yeah,
but at least I'll be cute.
I've got a cat. He's a right arsehole. So
can you imagine?
You mentioned
They'll be putting us outside at all hours of the night.
Well, you mentioned last week, then you might want to go and kind of sample a little bit of Lower Decks. In season 3 of Lower Decks, they do go to Deep Space Nine. Kira Nerys is there, and Nana Visitor voices her, and Quark is there, voiced by Armin Sherman, and it's a great Deep Space Nine episode. So
it's not going to make me want to do this.
No, it's in season 3. And go check it out. It's a good episode.
I'll trust you more than I trust them. It will honor the Cisco. Starfleet Academy.
It was a great. If you're a Deep Space Nine fan, it's a great episode of Lower Decks.
I agree with you about this episode of Starfleet Academy. I don't think it has harmed Deep Space Nine. I don't think it can. It doesn't matter enough.
Yeah.
But who knows where we'll be by week 10, by episode 10. Because culminatively, this show could do a lot of damage to Star Trek, I suppose, if only by reputation, because there's another season coming next year, and conversation around it will build in the time that it's off air. Word will spread that this is a bit of a car crash, and that's not going to help the franchise at all, really. It's streaming all over the world on Paramount Plus, absolutely everywhere. You've heard what we think. Let us know what you think of all 5 episodes up to now. We'll see you in the comments with some of that on YouTube and Rumble. And yeah, we are, believe it or not, we are going to be sticking around for the remainder of the series. You can see the wilting of David's voice there. Let's take another quick break before we bring the ship home. Let's have another bolt of common sense.
It is the year 2000. But where are the flying cars? I was promised flying cars. I don't see any flying cars. Why? Because billions of people all over the world can work together on the web 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You don't need flying cars, but you will need a different kind of software. It's a different kind of world. You need a different kind of software.
Cool. When Lotus was the future. Whoa.
Chill out a bit, mate. Bloody hell. Goes on a bit, doesn't he?
He does.
Yeah, no flying cars for the Cisco. Not just yet, but we have flown through the last 2.5 hours, believe it or not. Time flies when you're having having fun. Series Acclamation Mill. That's been the topic of conversation this time, episode 5 of the first season of Starfleet Academy. If this doesn't question whether you've done the right thing signing up for Starfleet, nothing ever will. The USS Athena, obviously, it's a bit of an eyesore. But we always have the 20th century to go back to, don't we? And a line to draw. It's Star Trek's 60th anniversary year. I'm sure there'll be better than this to come. We'll certainly be delivering better as 2026 rolls on, or doing our level best. But
Dan, I'll never. I always appreciate your baseless optimism.
Me too.
Dear. Thank you everybody for the comments. I think we still got some more comments. People can't get enough, and I think again people are venting, and I understand why people are venting. I think it's justified. I think it's only been 4 weeks really, because the first one was a double. But people are
no.
Pissed
This was
off.
episode. We have 5 more.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm on holiday for one of them. I'm in Tenerife, so I won't be I won't be watching that week.
He's thinking, I'm out of the country. They can't get me. You can get Paramount Plus anywhere, mate. Can
I just say, I'm going to co-op Dan because I'm sure he was going to say this, but can I just say, a deep thank you to everybody in the chat, especially all the new names that I didn't recognize. It's always great to have new people here. I hope that we've given you something to think about and something to enjoy, but we so value all of you being here in the chat.
Yeah, we do. Apologies for setting off a cats discussion. Sorry, everybody.
Again, thank you, everybody. Bay says, I don't have enough pain medication to watch all 5 episodes. You can cherry pick which ones you commit to. And Jonathan
brilliant.
Cox says, good job. I'm a doggy person. TMI.
Takes all sorts.
Yeah. You show who's boss. Okay, I think what's it like? I think Guinan says we've all had enough. I think you probably have as well. Thank you for joining us here in 10 backward. We're running late, they're running dry, but another great conversation, even if it wasn't a fantastic episode this time. They're all, what have they got to laugh about? You've done it to us again, you little scamps. I dislike almost all of them now, but I'm sure that by the end of the season, I'll probably hate them all, and then we'll have to wash it down with something else here at Warp Drive, a Star Trek podcast. We have ideas about where we're going to go next once this mission is over. I hope you stick around too. Thank you to the everybody in the live chat there, YouTube and Rumble, the comments from people old and new, and all our moderators too, of course. Thank you again to the Rabbi from another planet. If you don't know where to find him by now, you never will. But he is on YouTube with his own YouTube channel. He live streams most days, and even when he's not streaming, you get video summary editions of previous Flights of Fancy, courtesy of Sfila Betkin, the Rabbi from another planet. So go and check him out on YouTube and Rumble. Bowlestrek. I don't need to tell you who Bowlestrek is, do I? One of the premier Star Trek and that other show, voices on YouTube. The man that people love to hate, our mate Chris. Just think of him. Just you send him your strength. Hope it sort of inflames his power, and he can go on with the strength of the prophets. Because he's very intense when he works on those videos. He doesn't just bang them out. He does think carefully about what he says and how he says it. So I'm sure you know where to find Bowlestrek by now. But show him some appreciation by all means. Show him some love, because I think that where would we be? Where would this fandom be without Bowlestrek? Where would 2 or 3 fandoms be without Bowlestrek? Go and check him out. Still a stalwart voice on YouTube, David. We know you're off abroad in a few weeks, you lucky bastard. But what are your plans for the rest of the weekend? Just going to chill out after this ordeal?
Tomorrow I have got what my mother has described as slow cricket. It's a cricket club called the Broken 11. their indoor nets, their training practice tomorrow, and it's for people who have had physical setbacks, injuries, and the like, or psychological setbacks. So I've had both, so I'm proper broken. And we've got our indoor nets training session tomorrow, so that's where we try and look active. So my mum decided to call it slow cricket. It's not slow, it's proper full on. So I've got that training session tomorrow for 2 hours, and then full on into next week, and then Thursday is currently Thursdays have a bit of a shadow on my life at the moment, because of this program. So I'm looking forward to having a good day tomorrow, where hopefully it doesn't rain too much, because my barometer is stuck on stormy at the moment and not Stormy Daniels.
Well, that came out of nowhere. Okay.
Who's Stormy Daniels?
She's like a porn star.
A porn star.
That allegedly that was paid allegedly and quite a bit of money by Donald Trump to not say anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right, good. That's I always get an education doing this with you, David. Thank you. Gary, as well. I have mentioned your cap this time, but don't think I haven't noticed.
Well, this is the Mirror Universe Enterprise cap, because I figured that, I kind of feel like we've all been shunted into the Mirror Universe during this series.
We have. So. I'm popping off into a Mirror Universe tomorrow, in fact, as a guest of Blood of Kings, which is a Highlander podcast on the Fandom Podcast Network. They're doing a live special with people from other Highlander podcasts and YouTube channels. Highlander. So if you're into Highlander like I am, the movies and specifically the TV show too, if you're looking forward to that new movie that's coming out in the next couple of years, I'll be there with Kev and with Lee and with John, I think, too, John Mosby, and with Grant as well, over there on Blood of Kings, a Highlander podcast.
Very cool.
So come and find us there. We'll be live, and we'll be streaming and picking up on the general lay of the land there. So follow me on social media, Dan Hadley at the Spacebook on X and Instagram, and if I remember, you'll find a link to some of that as well. But thank you for joining in, everybody. We've got some great comments this time in particular, whether you've agreed with us or not. Wherever you are on the political spectrum and landscape, it's all fine by us. Okay, Warp Drive will be back next time. In the meantime, you can catch all earlier editions of the show on their own dedicated YouTube channel. So I think it's episode 35, and we've reviewed multiple series now of Star Trek, kind of when we feel like it, really. But we'll be live streaming and podcasting throughout 2026, Star Trek's 60th anniversary year with we've got lots of ideas, so if you stick around, you'll find out all in due course. Back to Starbase, or is it time to simply warp out? I think that's to warp out, quit while you're ahead, warp out while you're ahead. That's probably the message of this one, and we'll see you all out there somewhere, maybe, if you've got the strength. May the prophets be with us all. Next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.